Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to the fourth episode of Is This a Podcast? And we're back. It's already Sunday and it's 2 p.m. already. I don't know how the time's going by. And give it up for Vishnu Ravi Prasad, fellow BisiBeleBois, everybody.
Just give me a second. My laptop is slightly
Okay.
detect
I should
my
be
camera.
this.
Just keep clapping. Yes, there I am.
Okay, welcome. Hello, Vishnu. How are you?
Oh, yes. Every Sunday we see. Other than that, we don't usually talk. Only just Sundays.
Yeah. That too only on camera. Offline, nothing. No business whatsoever.
5 minutes before the call, it's after the call, and between anything after and before. No, we are not friends then.
Yeah, we don't even know each other. And who are we going to be, who are our guests for today?
Who are our guests? So like always, it's always a question, but this time we again have two people who are fond of questions. But
What?
I don't know.
Awesome.
But we have actors, producers, directors, writers, all in one. You might but no, we don't have him. We have someone who's nowhere close to Quentin Tarantino, but a good friend of ours, an actor, a producer,
Yeah.
Two people from the founders of Piece of Paper Production. First off, I would like to introduce Sumukha Prasad, actor, producer, writer, director, son of cycle enthusiast. He's not a cycle enthusiast. It's just a son of a cycle enthusiast, bicycle enthusiast.
Okay, and chair, towel dryer, all of that combined
Yes.
into one.
That's Sumukha.
And we have the co-founder of Piece of Paper Productions, Jayasmati Patsarthi. Give it up, everybody.
Again, actor, director, producer, writer.
Yeah, sure.
I haven't seen, so I won't tell.
Just because you haven't seen, no?
Awesome. We have people from Piece of Paper Productions today, and like we've been with them from the start, and they have been with us from the start, and yeah, it's been a ride so far, and let's see what we talk about today. We might talk about controversial
Anything and
things that
everything.
might have happened with us. We might not talk
Oh,
about
damn it. Was the right thing a bicycle pun?
What?
I thought the right
Oh.
thing was a bicycle pun, dude.
You're thinking too much.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
She's going full
And,
Scorsese mode.
yeah, he's thinking too much. That's all.
But that's about it. And let us start off today's podcast, everybody. But
Is this a podcast?
awesome. How are you guys doing? First off,
It's Sunday, anxious because WTC finals is happening. Whew. But let's see.
which team are you supporting, Samukha?
India.
Okay.
I bleed blue.
As you can see, I'm wearing yellow. I'm supporting CSK.
We're still waiting for the Chennai match to happen.
But yeah,
And you, Jayasmati, how have you been?
I'm good. My day just begun. I just woke up a while ago. So
good time.
still
That's
in the morning.
that's how it needs to be. Any day in the lockdown needs to be like that because none of us have college, none of us have school, none of us have
Correct.
responsibilities. Sadly, but
Is it sad? But anyway.
I mean, like sometimes it hits, but it's okay. But yeah, perfect.
I have two questions. My first question is like, I have college and I have work. My second question is my chewing audible?
No,
No.
Okay, thank God.
or else
Okay.
it will become like some ASMR.
Yeah. And what have you guys been up to as Piece of Paper Productions? I saw the summer camp for kids and all of
Right.
that. What have you guys been up to? How's things with that and everything?
Good. Yeah, this is going to happen a lot. Please
No, that's
direct questions a little bit, but it's good. It's good. Like, so basically, I think it's the first time that we've ventured actively into teaching in terms of the theatre camp and all of that. So we've branched out into slightly younger kids and all of that. So Sumukha can scar them for life. But yeah, it's been going on well.
It's not how you market, Jaspati.
It's okay.
Sumukha, do you want to plug it in? You can plug in.
No, we're giving them life experience. I mean, to adults it's called scarring, to children it's called life experience.
But, no, children is till 20 was the maximum age limit, and it starts from 8 or 6.
Yeah.
8.
8 from 20. That's a good age to start. But I know this is a random question. It's not like we usually ask chronologically, whatever. Usually 3 episodes we have done. But now, like, since we are in the topic of the workshop, I want to ask this out, where see, teaching, I've attended like workshops, not workshops, intense workshops by Sumukha. At least, when Sumukha gives acting advice or like basic theater advice and stuff like that in college or while acting or just while going back home from some long ass stuff like that, it's always like it's nice. But when you're teaching me, like I got it when I was 18, 19. But when you're giving the same kind of advice and learnings to someone who's 8, it's not the same, right? Like handling an 8-year-old, teaching acting to an 8-year-old is a totally different ballgame altogether, because the way they grasp things, the way they understand things and all that is so much different from anyone. Even if they've been acting from 3, say there's some child actor, they've been still, it's a whole different ballgame. And how do you think, like, you're gonna, what are the plans to like manage this part of it?
Okay, I think if I can take this, where do you want to go after? Okay, so I'll tell you what. So for me, the youngest person that I conducted like this demo session sort of thing, and the youngest person that I conducted it for was 9 years old, and that's the youngest I've interacted with officially for acting, right? And what I noticed, so the youngest is 9 and the oldest is 20. So I kind of drew this parallel where I realized that honestly, with a 9-year-old, the child is giving you everything. You have nothing to do. Because when you're in that age, especially all these children, right? Anything between 9 to 13, before you become all, oh no, I'm shy, I don't know what to do. These kids there's so much in them. And all you need to do is kind of mold it or shape it and channelize it in the right way, which is so much more easier than having to break through barriers with adults. And when I just say easier, I mean in terms of the amount of effort that I need to put as someone sitting on the other end. So quite honestly, even though I strongly believe that, whatever you teach to an actor, unless and until we're going into the technical or theoretical bits, it is regardless of chronological age. Okay, I feel like your mental age or your creative age plays so much more of a factor than chronological age does when it comes to art in general, right? And the thing with kids is that they're so enthusiastic, dude, and it's so infectious, and they give you everything to work with. You just need to be there, and you just need to mold it. And I mean, that's what it's been like for me. So it is 2 different ball games for sure, but they have their own different processes to go about.
And like, she's the right person to say it, because you've been doing green room since what, you were 14, 15? What?
Yeah, 14. I was 14 when I started, 15 when it happened. But yeah.
Yeah. So,
perfect. Yeah. Sumukha, what are how are
Same
you?
question. Okay.
Same question.
Okay. So I think the youngest I've taught is 4 years, right? And see, there's something that I've observed, especially today, right? A 9-year-old person is basically what I was when I was 18.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like the mentality and everything is it's so fast, and they're exposed to more things than I ever was. And even though I started like theater at a very young age, it still was very different. With respect to molding, I think for teaching, especially from 9 to 13, I mean, the way I teach is basically not like kind of molded or any sort, but kind of let loose. Because I think during that period is when, especially for people who are really interested to go into theater, right? During that age bracket, I want I would want the kids to explore as much as possible. After that is when when their comfort zone happens. The more I mold them, the more confident they'll be in one aspect and not be confident in the other. For example, and that's also why parents used to join their kids to all these kind of classes, Bharatanatyam, blah blah blah, and all, to kind of get them comfortable with everything. But then they start molding you at a very young age. Like even when you go to Bharatanatyam classes, you don't actually just learn and just do everything, right? You are constricted to a certain thing. But yeah, I mean, again, there are multiple ways in which you can go about it. The thing is, when you teach a younger age group, it's very tough for them to follow. They give you a lot, but they don't follow well.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, it at times it's more energy consumed by the person who's conducting, right? But yeah, I mean, with respect to the summer camp, I think the youngest is 15 years old. I'm assuming 15 or 14, not quite sure. But yeah, I mean, that again, so since 14, right, they already know how to follow like multiple step instructions, not like Ishanavasti from Tare Zameen Par, right? Like you tell chapter 4, like all that. But they're able to follow multiple instructions at the same time, which is very surprising, because when I was in 10th, if someone actually told me like chapter 4, page 2, line 3, I would just be like, letters are dancing now. I can't. But on the other hand, even when I teach like an 18-year-old, for example, with your left hand and Arihan, ability to kind of
body language.
Body language, right? The fact that I mean, even though you can follow instructions, it's very tough for a 19-year-old who knows what they are to break. And I think that is something that you need to learn at a younger age, at a very younger age. It's easier to break a twig than a tree, right? So
yeah, I think
quotes and all.
No, I think it's basically that what I was saying, right? When you can't, what you don't learn in 6, you can't learn in 60 or whatever. I don't know what it is.
There's a Kannada gade. Gidavadi Bagaddu, Maravadi
Bagalla. Same thing in like Tamil version. I know. So yeah.
I don't know. Like I go back and forth on that. I guess like you need to be, as good in unlearning as good as you are in learning. Like I don't know. It's even though you're not that, you can argue like that's much more easy when you're a kid. But yeah, but I guess like, especially as like artists, we need to, be able to adapt and, adjust, because like, and a perfect example of that was like the pandemic, where we had to do something with it, right? And anyway, we can talk more about that later, but so far it's good. And like, it's great that you're doing a summer workshop and like engaging with kids. And speaking of kids, what was your like first ever theatrical performance? Do you remember it? And like, were you a child? We'll all go over our first theatrical experiences, and I'll start off with mine. So I used to go to this like, evening camp, like daycare. Like my mom would drop me off for like 2 hours in the evening at this place called Magic Puddles. Okay, it's right nearby. And like we were all like, I was the first batch over there. So like they were all like kids from all over Bangalore, and like they would daily activities. So like one day with like coloring, basically daycare kind of thing. And during that time, we did a play called Who Took My Strawberries? That was the play. And I was a greedy farmer in that. So I was a greedy farmer.
You took the strawberries.
No, I was the strawberry. Strawberry. I was a strawberry farmer, and like I was the greedy farmer, and there this bunch of kids who are coming and trying to steal my strawberries, if I'm not wrong. And like I would be the greedy farmer. I'd be like, who took my strawberries, like that. Okay, so back then only I had such a role. I was 5 years old, I think. And like my mom has the entire play recorded on the handy cam. Like, like Vishnu's left hand issue, I would just put my hands on my crotch all the time. So like I would tell a dialogue and like I would put it on my crotch and I'd be like somewhere over here. I am auntie. She comes and like she pulls my hand and she walks off. like mid-play she comes and then I put it back and they're like, oh. And like my parents still tease me to this day, like, 5 years old, like I would tell a dialogue and like when someone else is telling their thing, I'd be like, huh? Just, like hands on my crotch and just like being oblivious to the world outside. And like that was like my first, theatrical performance. But the one which was much more, something that I did more cognitively and like, with like I could gauge the audience and everything was a play in 7th standard where I played the role of a bully. It was one of those intra-house competitions. And in that, like I played the role of a bully in like this, like it was a play in which you had to tell about moral values and everything. I played a bully, but yeah, that's my first thing. Introduction to theater and not.
That statement of hands on the crotch and oblivious to the world is such a perverted quote. No, like imagine it as like a t-shirt thing.
But like also keep in fact that like it was a 5-year-old. So the one who says that is perverted, not the 5-year-old.
Sure.
You are the problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like I like in that 5 years old only in UKG I delivered vote of thanks. So that's where
that's where it started. Now it makes sense.
So I delivered the vote of thanks back then. So from then, like I've been obsessed with vote of thanks. So yeah. Who's next?
Sumukha, Jayasruti, anyone?
Okay. So I remember, I think my first introduction to theater was, I started off with professional. I don't remember doing schooling. I remember doing schooling, but a school play. It was in London. So there was this London theater camp, which actually, London Theater Production House, which came to Elm Grove School where I was studying. And they handpicked a couple of students to play a Greek mythology, which was called Theseus. Right. It's basically a story about this one guy. Do you know the king Oedipus? Something?
Yeah,
Little boy. Yeah. So it's basically in the same era of during that. So there's this king Theseus. His son is basically a mighty ruler. Right. He's said to be as strong as Alexander, and the guy who holds the two. Forgot his name, dude. Hercules, correct. Yeah. So they're basically gods, right? Descendants of gods and all that. The king the king has to go to war, but then he's made a promise to his wife that, they'll have sex and get babies and all that. So he stays back, but he has to go to war because the monster challenges him and he's not one to back out from a fight. So his son goes and but Theseus is like, no, I don't want you to go. You're my son. If you die, then I won't have anything else. I'll give birth to a daughter, but who wants that? And all that, right? So then he's like, okay, fine, I'll do one thing. I'll go fight the monster. And while coming back, I will raise a white flag if I'm alive. If it's a black flag which is raised, just remember that you have destroy the kingdom because you can't let the monster take over. So the king's like, okay, fine. So the son goes, the prince goes. I think almost around 7-8 days pass, and the king just waits at the edge of the cliff where they said they bid adieu. One day there's a storm and the storm clears and then you see a ship coming from on the ocean amidst the clouds or something like that, and he sees really close and it's a black flag raised. The king is like, oh no, oh my god, my son is dead. Okay, fine. He destroys the entire kingdom and he commits suicide. So he jumps from the cliff and dies. Then the ship arrives, it docks. And then finally, the prince steps out and he looks around and then he finds only one survivor there, who's basically he's a merchant who came into the kingdom trying to search for gold and all that. And then the merchant, he explains the entire story to the merchant where he says, I destroyed the monster, but my ship got destroyed in the process. So I took the monster's ship and I came. Right. So it's basically that story of that. It's how a son loses a father. I played the son. So, you can imagine.
That's all we were waiting for, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
is this that ship of Theseus? That one?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So I was the Greek, it was the little thing, the halo Greek clothing, that white color robe. It's basically a bed sheet and they safety pinned it together. right? And it's all jugaad, like obviously. And we performed in I don't remember. I think near Harrow and Wheelstone. There's a theater there. It was a big, like it was a proper like opera theater. I was like, I mean, I didn't know back then. For me, it was just lights. But yeah, so when that happened, I still remember the dialogues were happening, right? I had, and it's all adapted to Greek mythology. Like the language is very Shakespearean, but they dumbed it down to English, right? For all those who are watching out there, English is not dumb. It's just that Shakespearean is very classy. But yeah, so it was that time when I had to talk to my father, like my imaginary father. Like I was dreaming in the ship and I was hallucinating. I was talking to my father. My cloth fell down. Okay, the thing is, back then we were wearing like triangle underwear because we were kids. So I was wearing like the triangle underwear and it fell down, like the robe fell down. I was except like underwear, everything else was like seen. And people in the audience are laughing. But I didn't stop. I kept continuing. And then I think that was the first time I knew that, this is something that I really want to do. Because even though I think my robe fell down, I should have been embarrassed, but I felt even more confident. And I did the entire play. And then I felt really confident and I joined the production house full time. Then unfortunately, whatever it is, I came back to India and then continued professional theater.
And, it's always like I didn't know that whole story of the play. I was like related, and it was like, okay, I play the son. Like, you can first tell that.
Oh wow, nice. I like how you played some Greek thing and all you did. The first thing that I did ever was Ane Bantuva Ane. Yeah, it's the only thing in Kannada that I know till date, and I still remember it. But I think for me, my journey started off as a dancer majorly, in school, even otherwise. It used to be dance all the time. And eventually, I think, I don't know if these things happen anymore, but like fancy dress shows, right? That's where my inner actor shone and all of that. So there was one community center near my house where there used to be these like every month sort of thing. And that's when, I dressed up as an elephant I still have that costume, by the way. It has this cute little head thing with the trunk. And I wore it until I was in 8th for another Madagascar themed party. So I was like, oh, I have this. So, but yeah. So it was basically those fancy dress things. I think that's where it started with Ane Bantu Ane. And everyone used to be like, do this today. And then from there, it probably, for a very long time, it was dance and fancy dress. But I think the first time that I ever started doing theater was, so I was that kid in school who was in 4th standard. But the 8th standard teacher used to come and be like, you come do for us. Because I don't know, my teachers always just had immense faith in me. If anybody is watching, thank you, ma'am, and so. But yeah, so I was always that kid who used to be in an 8th standard, 10th standard, 12th standard production. But as a grandmother, I don't know what they saw in me, dude. Like but clearly they're seeing exactly what you all saw. But yeah, so I remember the first thing that I did, and I'm talking about yellow.
Yeah, I know. But like for a second, like the most recent one, so yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, so basically, I think in 4th grade, it was some Independence Day skit. It all started off like that only, skit will be there, class activity, all of that. Apart from there, school was happening, but I think in 8th grade was when I ventured into professional theater as well, where I joined Bakndorf. And the first role that I played was the role of a unicorn. And here's so basically,
Ane to unicorn. Good.
Yes,
just Airavat, it would have been clean. Like, imaginary Hindu animal, imaginary Western animal.
Good. I remember this. Okay, so on the day of the show, I was wearing all white because unicorn, and I had this headband with the horn. Okay, which was a prop that was made, but for obvious reasons, it did not look just like a horn. Yeah. And I had no idea why people were laughing. And these are the actors backstage, right? Like I'm 14 years old. I don't know what they're laughing about. I'm like, What you laughing? They're like, you won't get it. You won't get it. You won't get it. What are you laughing about?
Yeah, what's so funny about a cornet or cone? What's so funny?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But then three years later, I think I realized what they were laughing about, and then I laughed about it on my own. Also cried a little, but but yeah, I think that's how acting began for me.
It's called unicorn for the reason, not unihorn, right? So.
Oh, that's a line from the play.
Really?
Whoa.
Yeah, something like that.
Vaishak,
I still remember my lines from that play also, dude. Damn it.
Vaishak is the future writer of this play.
And what do you say? Vishnu, go ahead, dude. Sorry.
Mine. Wait. So till third standard, I was in school called Adarsh, where every twice a week I used to go up on stage. Poem recitation, news read.
News reading.
Like other kind of stuff. Learn whatever poem recitation. Give what's that elocution? What is that thing?
Yeah, correct. That only.
That thing and all that thrice a week I used to do. I used to do that this on a almost weekly basis, proper. Like if in a month, 12 times I would have been up on stage during the assembly. And the school got closed down, right? Why the school got closed, I'll tell you that. That's a funny reason. So you guys know the actor Manorama?
Yeah.
Manorama is a Tamil actress
in
the 60s, 70s, and she's not there anymore. But she was a huge actress, supporting actress, leading lady, everything. She's done everything. And the school was, the plot was hers. Like it was behind her house and the plot was hers. So the school was paying rent to Manorama. Manorama was like, school, how much rent can a school pay, right? Like she's not making any money out of it. She was like, if you can pay me more rent, I can give you the school, or else like, no, whatever. Some problem like this happened. The school was like, it was hardly anything. They could have easily paid the rent. I was like, no, we won't pay the rent. And so she was like, okay, leave. So they closed the school in third standard. But basically there were other branches where people got shifted to other branches, but I didn't get shifted. So it was all Tinagar branches closing, and they gave trophies to everyone, and they gave me a trophy saying most number of times featured on stage or whatever. Right? So very small, those golden trophies, the gold, that trophy, I think I still have it. So that was all not theater, still on stage and fancy dress, what Jayasmiti was telling. No, I've dressed up as 3 things I remember very vividly, right? Because my mom used to put in so much effort for those fancy dress competitions. One was Oswald. She bought blue color paper, she bought carton boxes, made box, stuck it, like it was a proper Oswald blue octopus. And the other one was Lord Srinivasa, right? This is the photo. I still have it.
Oh my God.
Okay. So that, and I won both times, Oswald and this. Obviously I won. Like I can't wear this and not win. Like I can sue. So I won both times, and one more was I was a baker or something. I sang Hot Cross Buns, that song. Hot cross buns, that one. And I something in second place, third place I got. And then in fourth standard, I shifted to another school where they were very like artistically oriented school. They were like theater.
The school was again run by about it.
The school was run by an actor's daughter. But it was still very artistically oriented. They had connections to all Tamil cinema and people and all that. So one, again, I was in an Independence Day skit of Jallianwala Bagh that came on like Sun TV and stuff. They shot it in school. It came up on Sun TV and stuff. And I was the wall.
Wall in Jallianwala part.
I was an integral part of the skit, Jallianwala Bagh. All right, so that was the first thing, and then they had this annual huge production play, proper 1 hour, not even 90-minute play they used to do with including everyone from LKG till whatever the highest standard, 10th or something. Everyone used to be in that play. All these LKG students, as usual, water, tree, stuff like that, and like hierarchically they used to give roles to everyone. And I don't remember what the play was, but I obviously it was all young kids, so they pre-recorded the lines. They took us to a studio, pre-recorded the lines, and then so that we don't forget it on stage, and it's just mouth lip syncing, right? So I, I was the king announcer. You know how in olden days there was this announcer go to street, tell, oh, tomorrow this is happening in King's.
Yeah.
So I was that, and I remember that I had super high fever on the day of the play. Like I went to the green room, they're putting makeup, and the makeup guy's like, "Are you okay? Like you're boiling up. Can you go act?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can." And like it's not even acting; it's just going and lip syncing for 2 minutes. That's it, and back off stage. That's it. No other work in the play. I went, did that, came backstage, pass out backstage, came till curtain call, till that. So from then, like every year, I used to, from fourth, that was the small role. Fifth, I got a better role. Sixth, I got a better role. Seventh, so I went up. Eighth, I got the best role I had, and I shifted school. And then in eighth, 12th, I didn't do much.
End at a high.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
End at a
ninth,
high.
yeah, I shifted to a different school. I didn't do much there. And then once I came to Bangalore, I started doing proper professional theater. Whereas in 12th, I used to do comedy, like go do stand-up comedy in like cafes and stuff like that. But professional theater was in Bangalore with Zoo Story. That was the first time with Red Polka. It was first time. So that was the theater journey. Pretty fun though. I've acted as a wall. I've acted as a cave. I think there was this one play where the main character had to run through a cave, and we had huge audiences, like huge auditoriums, like 2,000 seaters. So the stage is huge, right? So they were like, how can we make this more fun? They were like, we'll create a cave with like a long 10 feet, 12 feet cave from one end of the stage to the other, so that the character can run past, and like there's a huge applause break there. So I was,
Oh damn.
where I was small, thin, so like go sleep on people, go people, and stuff like that. It was fun. They put in a lot of effort for those plays, but well, I guess it was okay. 8th standard when I got the best role, Suhasini Maniratnam was there, so I guess it.
Damn.
I have a photo of receiving best scene from her from an award.
So you were the concrete that held the play together
Yeah,
and stuff. Sorry.
wall, cave, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, like clearly he's the one who has had like proper exposure from school, I guess, and like obviously like fancy dress, all of that. Yeah, I dressed up as like LKG, UKG. I didn't know. I think I did Hanuman once and I did Rama once. So like Hanuman, I got second place. I lost to a teapot. Yeah, and
I know the story.
I've been a teapot. That was my favorite.
no, like I dressed so well and like full lipstick all over. Went told Sanskrit shloka. First place, one girl came, did this and won off.
Tall
Apparently, I
and
was that
short,
girl.
tall and stout.
Yeah.
Pour me
I'm
out,
a
whatever
little
that is.
teapot, short and stout. Pick
See?
me up and put me. Yeah, I remember.
Pour me out.
It shows
Yeah.
the Western influence. No respect for Indian values.
I was also
Just because-
Jhansi Ki Rani once, dude. That was the shit. Like so much power Jhansi Ki Rani has. Damn cool.
No, like just because girl can speak English, they gave off first place.
What are these
I don't
other
want that.
Beti ko padao.
And yeah, like I guess like we've all had, going on stage and like what Sumuka told about, getting embarrassed, but like that gave you more power to do more. I guess in a certain way, like I can understand that because I've been like hugely embarrassed on stage, like massively. And that even though like, yeah, I still like panic about going on stage sometimes, but it's understandable that like it's in a certain way, it feels like you've seen the worst. So like what, like, further what bad could happen or whatever.
No, I think the worst for you is getting the lights turned off while on stage.
Oh yeah. No, like I think every time I've done something, some or the other thing has gone wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's like that. I have heard Sumuka say this a lot, that you have to bomb on stage too.
Yeah, he says that a
And
lot.
it's a very cliche thing that, oh, failures are stepping stone to success and stuff like that. But it's a genuine thing. Only if you're bombed on stage, you'll know, like, even when you're doing well, you'll know, okay, to hold back, even if you're like going full on, like, you'll know basically like what is going to happen, what is the scene.
But when I mean bomb on stage, I just don't mean like go there. Oh shit, I forgot. You have to work like as hard as you can and then go bomb on stage. That's a satisfying feeling.
I know there's a huge story with that particular line Sumuka told. But yeah, we'll get to that story of it. It's a very like, wow, Sumuka has so dedication to theater. It's that type of story. We'll get to that. But yeah, Vaishak, did you have a question?
No. Yeah, I think that like bomb, it's very humbling in a way, and it teaches you to not take things personally, which I struggle from, but like still, it's a lesson. And awesome, like we spoke about all of this, and now that like we spoke about kids and like workshops, like have you done any workshops as you were like when you were kids? Or and now Sumaka is going to film school as well, so like now you're actually learning before which, and like I've never had like professional acting classes. I've not taken that, and the only workshop which I have done acting or performance related was in Rangashankara summer AHA workshops. I used to go to that, and like usually like it would be one I did like one magic thing and one cooking, but the one related to acting was in when I was in 7th or 8th sometime. Then I did a course summer workshop on Kuttiyatam, which is a traditional art form, one of the oldest art forms from Kerala, and it was conducted by Kapila Venu, and she is very famous, and like she still does plays and whatnot in Kuttiyatam. And yeah, I still remember from that time, like like it's all like very physically intense. Like I thought I'll go to like this acting thing and like they'll teach me dialogue, and I'm like, you're talking to me. But like she told me first day she told like wear comfortable clothes. All of you need to wear comfortable. Okay, track pants I started with. That time jeans pants, like I couldn't find ones which were my size, so all I used to wear was shorts. So like not an issue. So like immediately you told like start squatting, lift like one up like this. I'm like, what's happening? And then repeat after me. Like that. What? Oh God! Like what is this? And like more and more, like she would, like explain what this line means, what it means, and like how physically and how much energy it required. Like it was like a proper workout. So like that aspect was fascinating to me, and that's like the only thing which I've done. And like it was a good learning thing for me. And like the fact that I still remember it means something. So, but yeah, what about you guys?
I think for me, actively, again, I started off, the only reason I started doing theater was because of a workshop. It was a workshop in Rangashankara only. It was part of the summer AHA thing that they have, right? But it was, I think, a 2-week thing. I don't remember. This was back in between 2013 to 2015. I don't remember.
Same, that time only. AHA is 2 weeks only.
Yeah. So it was this troupe from Mumbai, the Phoenix Players, and the lady who facilitated the workshop, her name was Anita Salim, along with her son, whose name was Aryama Salim. And I think I think the oldest that they go is 30, what is 14, 15, what's the age range? I don't remember, but I know I was one among the older kids over there. And it was this 2-week thing. And we did Greek mythology. The entire 2 weeks was focused on Greek mythology and things like that. And that was the first time so I was that kid who was just, my dad used to be like, you should try this, you should try that. I'm like, yes, I'll try this. Yes, I'll try that. So that's how I kind of did everything, right? And the same thing happened with the theater workshop also. It's like, try it. I'm like, okay, I'm trying. And it was fun. It was just a lot of fun. But I think at the end of that workshop, the facilitator, she was just like, she was taking some time to give feedback to everybody, and then she looks at me, and I still remember this, because trust me, that's the reason why I am where I am today, because she looks at me and she goes, you have a very beautiful voice, and your expressions are the kind of things that theater artists are made of, so don't ever stop acting. And I don't think that lady knows how much she impacted a 12-year-old, because that 12-year-old took what she said for real. And she said, okay, I'm not going to stop acting. And that's where I kind of, then for years searched. And this is something that I just like to talk about, where I think at that gap, I was 14, 15, right? Somewhere there. And usually you have workshops, classes, productions until the age of 12. And then you have one 16 onwards. Usually that's how the gaps were, at least back then. And I used to struggle to find something that was because I was too old for the former and too young for the latter, right? So it's a struggle to find some place to kind of take this fire, this enthusiasm. And that's when Green Room happened, because they were a no age sort of thing. And that's a principle that I hold so close to my heart, that I try to do, like, kind of bring in with everything that I do, even with POP, where I'm like, age cannot be a factor. Like, we can't categorize people like that, because I know what it feels like to be in that gap and to not have something to do. But yeah, I think in terms of cheap training, it was that first, the summer workshop. And then after that, it was also in my school, right? We were tied up with this academy for a brief while called Helen O'Grady, which again is a professional training academy where they work on voice, speech, diction, things like that. So I think that was also something that I was exposed to. Apart from that, I think just workshops on and off in Christ also. Like, we had a couple of workshops conducted by external facilitators from other theater companies and things like that. So yeah, that's it for now, but hopefully there's more to learn. Looking forward to it.
Muka?
I go to Whistling Woods Film Institute. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, you go ahead, Vishnu, by the time he comes back.
No, I don't have any official training whatsoever. Nothing of that.
But like exposure to like such big scale plays, I think that itself is training enough.
Yeah, that was there from 4th to 8th. That was always there every year. Like 4 or 5 sports day and this, that's it. Like, we didn't study much. Just sports day, 3 months of practice, 6 months of practice for the play, 5 to 6 months of practice for the play. And just that, being like, they used to rent out those auditoriums for the practices as well. Right. Like, so just being in that auditorium day in, day out, exploring backstage, going into all green rooms, getting shouted at, all that, like, and like, since like people have put in so much money, like full whatever fees they've got, they've probably put in on that play. Used to shout at us if like we didn't deliver the lines properly. Like, they didn't care if we didn't do math properly. They were like, fucking do that line properly. So yeah, I guess that was training. Other than that, just when I did here Red Polka Productions, I was 18 and everybody was like at least 10 years elder than me. So they're, everybody's like, they're teaching me. They're like, yeah, this is how it's done. This is how it's done. Everything, like, very sweetly they taught. And then again, like, just being in that professional theater kind of space helps a lot. I think that Indian Heritage Academy in Kormangla, what a beautiful place, man. Just like since 90% of Bangalore theater group is like the working people, like, who all have IT jobs, who have day jobs and stuff like that. You go there, the play Zoo Story was in June of 2018. So from June 1st week till June 8th, till the play on June 30th, every day it used to be morning practices, because like on weekdays and weekends, full day practice, whatever, because like no other time was possible for them. So it used to be 6:30 to 8:30 in the morning. Everybody used to come in proper like formals, or like few people used to get change of clothes or whatever. And I didn't have college back then. I didn't, like, it was summer holidays. I used to wake up like, I used to go in my night clothes, and everybody's like, they've got their lunch, breakfast, everything packed from home, and everybody's like proper. They're doing this out of passion. Like, you could see the passion that they were having, and just seeing all those things is like probably what, like, it's like learning experiences as well, because you see 30-year-old person. I don't want to call him uncle, but like 30-year-old person who, when I'm 18, seeing a 30-year-old coming in formals, doing his lines perfectly, or like I was a movement artist, doing his movement artist, no dialogues as well, perfectly, full dedication, each and every time, no slacking off, nothing. 6:30, there used to be maximum 6:45 practices used to start, and like 8:30, everybody used to leave. Bye. Maximum they used to go have coffee or like eat breakfast, back to go to office. They used to take the bus or go in their cars, whatever. And just seeing all those things are like, wow, like at 30, if you have that much dedication to do come movement theater, at 18, if I'm getting a chance to act in like Rangasala, make people pay and come watch me, might as well be give same amount of dedication. I think first week I was very like off. I used to go slightly late because 6:30. And
during summer.
I was like, no, I'll never go late to those practices ever again.
I agree with that though. I mean, I think honestly, training and exposure are two sides to the same coin. And once you've had enough, or you think you've gotten an idea of one, you flip to the other. So same. I think for me, it started off so much more with experience, with exposure, that now I'm at a point where I'm like, let's see what training's like. But yeah, I completely agree with what Vishnu said.
Yeah, and like I've never had like training ever, and like all like when I was in school, there were not even plays, there were skits. They're like 10-minute things we used to do, and like we would just write off and like just write, and I would write back then as well. And like now I see the scripts which I've written. Like you find an old laptop and I see the script, and I'm like, what the hell, you know? So like clearly, like yeah, I know where my mind was back then. But like then, like and like I had that overconfident attitude that scripts are for like losers, and like like acting should come so naturally to you that when you're on stage you should just act and it should come off and whatever. So yeah, like the first embarrassing thing which happened on stage was like I was giving news and something happened, and like that was damn embarrassing. And like how Jasmati told that when like your instructor came and told you that like impacted you a lot. For me, like them coming and telling me like shunning me on stage and like literally kicking me out like made me want to go up on stage even more. Like like I want to be in like, oh, you're telling me I can't do this now, I will do this, so it kind of like made me do that stuff. But like in 10th, what happened was like again like we were doing a play on stage, and like I went in with that whole it will come naturally to me or whatever. So like I had written this play, and like this play, half of the script was like given to a couple of girls, and the other half was for me and my friend. And like it was a script which I had written. The girls, they did the same thing, and like they did so well. Like the acting came up, all the teachers praised them and everything. I went with the attitude that like I have only written, like I will be good at this. I come, and like I bombed. Like it was horrible. And like my Kannada teacher, she came and told like, as like as beautifully as those two girls did it, you both of you, like me and my friend, you both were like worst, like the worst I've ever seen. And like I wrote this, like what's even happening, So that had happened. So like then like I thought, okay, preparation, it like I need to focus more on that. And in college and stuff, it's all like mono acting, and like it's mad ads culture in the first few, second few. It's nothing to do with plays and theater and all of that, unless you do something outside. But especially when you're studying science. So, but like after coming to PES and like like then joining drama club, and then we did Ashtray. I did Ashtray first. So like yeah, I had to like learn lines, and then like November of like, so like just 2 or 3 months into PES, and we did watch this space. Like we were kicked out of it, but like when we got into that and like seeing how things are, like people traveling and like the discipline that goes behind it, yeah, that exposure like trains you, and like more and more, and yeah, I totally agree with exposure and training being the two sides of the same coin. And like what do you say, you can't, even if you're very well trained, you're not that good without exposure. And no matter how much ever exposure you have, a little training will help you. So it's not like a 100% exposed person.
Fully
A person who
exposed.
has like if even if you're an actor who has done in Broadway, and then you take an acting workshop, you will learn something from that. And even if you're passed out of NYU Tisch School of Arts, a small play in Bugle Rock Park might help you. So it's that way.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Mukha Prasad, Whistling Woods. Knowledge.
Yes. So as you all know by now, I'm officially going under training. But exactly like Vaishak, I never had prior training before, and the reason is because I was never long. One disadvantage of traveling around is that you can never be comfortable with any kind of environment. You don't have enough time to dedicate yourself. Which is again today the reason why my language is my weakest point. My language is something that always holds me back. English, Hindi, French, Kannada, anything. So I had only I've attended only 2 workshops until now. Ranga Shankara, I don't remember what it was, but it was through my school. There we had a couple of people come in and train us, and I was the youngest there. We had to enroll ourselves from school. We get like free compensation, whatever crap. So I was the youngest there, and the people who were training who were part of the workshop were like 25, 26, 32, 45, and all that. And the second one was Ninasam. So I went to Ninasam for almost 1.5 weeks. And I was also assuming that, when you get like workshop in a couple of places, you will actually get hands-on experience with the entire thing. But Ninasam taught me that the best way to start learning or training is to look, is to watch, and not to go hands-on first. The reason is because once you get a look at it, right? Once you have a sense of a third or a bird's view or whatever it is, an eagle eye, whatever the technical term is, you get a sense of what or how your life is as an actor or on stage and all that. Ninasam, I think that was the first time. I remember Akshay Ambara did like 3 shows before Ninasam, and Akshay Ambara came and performed there. And they also did a play called Goodbye Shakespeare. Not the same, not Dramanon, but another production house. But it was beautiful. No, it was Dramanon only. But it was so good because Akshay Ambara, I'm assuming all 3 of you, have you watched it? Yes, Vaishak. I know
Vaishak has watched it a couple of times. I haven't.
Yeah. So it's a beautiful play. Like after I watched that, I think I realized that, okay, so I don't need much of a setup. And the life of an actor is not to kind of imply, I mean, it's not to show everything, but to kind of hide most of the things by letting the audience in on that small window. And I'm learning that with training and Whistling Woods as well. The only way to act is not to act. And I think if you feel like you have to, and this is something that also most actors do, trained, untrained, amateur, expert, there is that certain point when they feel like they have to act in order to express a certain emotion. For example, when let's say the scene is there, or the play revolves around your mother dying, it automatically translates to, okay, fine. So my mother died, I'm sad, I must cry. Right? But in reality, we know that we never cry. So we don't cry as and when it happens. We might cry when, they're taking the body away, or you think of that one little thing which triggers you, which pushes you off the edge. And as actors, there's only one thing that I hold dear to, which I've learned in Whistling Woods, is basically an actor lives a lifetime into us and has to be sensitized enough to kind of feel everything that you can feel in a lifetime into us. So yeah, and training is very effective. I actually want to teach. I mean, it's okay if I don't become. For me, theater is my end goal. Like I don't think theater is a stepping stone for me. Theater is the highest point I will reach, is my summit. And when I mean theater, I don't mean the theater I'm doing right now, but the theater which is going to be consistent, which is going to make a change. And hopefully I get that to India. When I mean India, I mean for developing cities like Bangalore. And I want to get modern theater also, or adaptive theater to certain places which have not accepted it yet. For example, Kerala, Kolkata. Right? They're still very folk, and it should exist, but on the side they should have a bit of modern theater as well. But yeah, so I've not had much training because of my language problem. But yeah.
Okay. We'll address the chat. No, we'll address the chat. Will come. We don't have much. Good people watching. Good. Leave a like. But show the Ane costume, says Shruti. I guess you can go ask her.
He said that so blindly. Like, you go ask her, dude. Like, video call madu.
Then she says, Shruti again says, what about the Rangashankara workshop? Yes, we about Rangashankara workshop. Vaishak, Jasmati, and Sumukha have attended the Rangashankara workshop. Yes.
Yes.
So few did AHA, and Sumukha didn't do AHA.
No, I didn't do AHA.
But yeah, we discussed the Rangashankara workshop as well. So I have a question. This is a question that we've discussed in every podcast till now. Whatever, 3 podcasts. We'll discuss this in the 4th also. Okay? Because this is a perfect question to ask. Like, this is a perfect question for us as BBB and for you, POP, or like anyone who is like this small time creative group.
We can segue into that actually. So like now that we know both of you, like even though not in that great detail, so far that like we discussed about our childhood, our initial experiences, where we come from, and like what we've been through and whatnot. Like now with all of that as context, I think now is the right time to ask the question: how did you start POP? How has it been? And the question which Vishnu is speaking of is like the art of like the joy of performing versus managing POP, right? So like how has that been? Like I understand that both of you are actors, and like obviously like all the time I wish I could be on stage and like just be on stage. But like I think as we have realized, so even so much more with POP is because more like the play is like the last thing. Before that is like the practices and all of that stuff. And Sumukha will know that best because that fucker would drop everyone home and do all that shit apart from practicing. So like, so there's this, all of this stuff combined. So how do you weigh in that, managing social media? So all of that. So
yeah. Even when you've started POP, like even if your production, like producer doesn't like, you know, since both of us have been there from the first, producer doesn't like sit and manage like the practice, whatever, and like everything, each and every small producer, even though you're managing and acting is still okay. But with a play, there's so much more like costume, props, plays, so much. There's like so moving parts in theater. Like, how do you work this out? As you said, joy of performing versus, I don't want to say pain, but still, you know, the not so joy of managing.
It is a pain. Like it's a
pain, but like I don't want to call it a pain. At least I want to live in denial that it's not pain.
It's a pain that you enjoy. No,
don't say words like that, Vaishak.
Yeah, I know.
Hakeem Dar, that's what I was going to say.
What do you say? You feel like it's a pain that you should not be feeling. Someone else should be feeling that. Like, that's the thought that you get. Like, bastard, I am an actor. Why should I worry about this? You know, like I am acting in this play. Why should I get so far from my house to Rangashankara, right?
I was waiting for when that will come up. I was waiting for it.
Oh goodness God.
No, yeah, even in like BBB thing, like when I need to improvise now. Why am I typing out Google form? Like that. So how is your brain divided? How do you weigh these things and all of that?
So
Mukha, you go
actually,
first.
POP actually started off in a very cute way. I remember I met Jasmine in Barking Dog, and it was one bike ride away from actually being created then. And we spoke a lot about theater, and that's the only thing we connected on. As individual, we didn't really care about each other's personal life. I mean, you can be going through hell, but that theater is that one space where we connected on, and it just made everything invisible, right? So I remember it was during seventh sem, and I was going through a phase in my life, midlife crisis. I'm just kidding, but at that point I was head of Naughty, but because of that I couldn't act in any of the plays. I had to pay way to my juniors to create opportunities for juniors, and that's what a head does, right? But the worst part was I never got to be a part of any of the plays before as well. In the sense, I didn't get on stage time before that, because every time we had a play, no one wanted to do lights or production. And for me, theater is not only acting; it's not the stage time; it's the entire experience for me. So I took it up, but I really wanted to act. And when seventh sem came, I remember that since I was the head, I wanted to make it different. I always believe this, but I think when you're a college team, never make it a family.
Never family.
Never make it a family. Don't involve that sappy thing. So I think family is disrespectful. Families have drama off stage. Families have so many problems. Families have cold silences, groundedness, molesters, and all that. Right? We don't want that. I think calling each other an artist is more respectful than calling someone my brother. I mean, I'm talking only with respect to a team. So then this seventh sem started, and I remember my attendance was 2% in college towards the end of seventh semester. But I got my way around because I knew the teachers. I mean, when I say this, I'm not doing wink, wink, nudge, nudge and all. But they knew I couldn't care less about engineering, and I just wanted to pass. And for them, they're like, okay, fine. If he passes, then he won't be a burden on us next semester as well. So they kind of pushed me along.
You made it clear I was the head of the club. So wink, wink.
Yeah, I was the head. I was the head. Get a lot of head, but yeah. And I remember there was this one play which was just sitting and rotting, which was Cradle of Blood. And I realized that, it's time to kind of pat the dust off that and then start it. I used to I used to work in Hyderabad at that point. So I used to travel every weekend for practice. And I was like, you know what, screw it. I was waiting for opportunities. Barking Dog wasn't doing anything in the upcoming months. And Red Polka Productions were conducting workshops at that point. They weren't going into plays. And BLT actually usually casts from the inside and not, there are very few plays where they make it open auditions. And I was tired of waiting for an audition. So I was like, hey, listen, I'm earning. So why not open my own production? And then I called Jasmine. I'm like, hey, listen, how would you like to open? And then she actually, I'm assuming that she thought it was just a spur of the moment kind of comment. And then she just rushed off. But then I was in the bus and I texted her, let's look for scripts. We started. And then April 17 was the first audition. We didn't expect people to come, honestly. We were just it will just be. But then 100 people, that was that time, sorry. We got almost 50 people from our own contacts to come and audition for us. We tried really hard to give every one of them, each of them, an opportunity. And after that, I pitched the idea of calling it Piece of Paper Production, but someone had a problem with it. Someone was like, no, gee, that sounds so bad. Oh my God, But, everything else, I wore her down. But yeah, that's how everything started. What was the management. I don't know if it's a pain because right now I'm kind of used to it. It's been happening since Naughty. When I really wanted to act in seventh sem, because with my seniors, right? In the last semester, it was basically like, okay, we lacked, the juniors just have to organize. Okay, but when I came, I didn't want age to be or seniority to be a factor. That happened, and then when this thing was happening, I remember Vishnu was my co-actor in the first show of Pizza Paper Productions. I barely practiced with him. He kept asking, bro, Macha, let's practice. And I was like, yeah, we'll practice. But there was an inside part of me which said, I just want to wing it. Because honestly, the entire managing thing on a professional scale is more taxing than a club team. Because club team, you don't really have to be accountable for anything. You can just say, oops, I forgot to, practice. Right. But professional, they're paying money and all that crap. So we had to take it a bit more seriously. And I was confident with Vishnu's practice, except his left hand. So I gave him his left hand a bit of work. Now that sounds so dirty when I say it, but I'll just like break it down. His left hand was basically sometimes on his bag, which he was carrying or something like that, to give it some kind of duty. And as productions kept happening, I realized that the worst, I think, was when Yari happened. So Yari was the first short film that we did, and it was a script that I wrote because I kept thinking about an idea. When I was supposed to be the actor, and I had I knew what I wanted to do. I knew the process and everything, but I couldn't give enough time for it because I was running around getting everything done. And yeah, so it kind of messed me up because it was the one script which I was waiting for. And since then, everything else has been kind of, through POP, I haven't gotten much stage time or screen time. But I guess that's also because I love managing. If it's not for theater, I would have gone into sales or pitching ideas, creative marketing, anything like that. But yeah, and for me, it became an issue later on when I really wanted to be a part of something, but I knew that I couldn't give time for both, and it was unfair on either end. So yeah, I understand what you mean by pain, but it's something that I enjoyed for a while. But once you give into it, I don't think there's a way to back off from it, because even if you have someone else to cover for you, or even if you have someone who says, okay, fine, go do your thing, I will do my thing, I will take care of the rest, you'll still have that thing where you're so used to kind of being on the managing end. Now all you can think about is that. Okay, fine. You have so many ideas, you can't really put it out there. You have to channel something that you hadn't created a path for, and now you just you're worried. So once you break out from that chain of managing, you need a lot of time to kind of break into the chain of creating. No, creating.
Creating.
Yeah. But yeah, it was fun, while it lasted.
That point of you told that after a point, it's not a choice anymore. And you said that, what do you say? I had to, it frustrated me that now I knew I couldn't give time for both of these things. And I had to, I think earlier Sumukha would have been I will do everything, right? And later you thought of how to manage that better. And you said that once you get into that headspace, it's hard to come out. Even if we technically we gave away our social media to someone and told them post, we will still go check all the captions and we'll see if everything's all right. It's hard once you're in that headspace to be completely now we'll just focus on this. It's just not possible. So I think learning to delegate is not as easy as just telling go do it. It also comes with a lot of trust and being okay with things not being the way you want it to be all the time, and just focus that energy somewhere else. And plus I'll come to that later, but yeah, go ahead, Jasmati. What's your take?
Okay, that was Sumukha's side of the story. Now listen. But so basically how POP came to me was, so Sumukha and I met through GRP. And as he said, we only spoke about plays, right? we hung out quite a bit, but I don't at this point, I'm like, why did we speak so much about, like, what did we have so much to share every day about plays and theater? But that's all we did. And I remember this one bike ride when, when it was just that whole cheesy Instagram, why wait for opportunities and we can create our own opportunities sort of conversation. And we spoke about it. And then a couple of months later, I came across my uncle from who's in Delhi. He came across this competition that was happening in Oxford, right? And he said, and he knew I was into theater and all of that, and he passed the details down. And I was like, okay, fine, let's try applying for this. But the thing is, so I was, again, 15, 16, something like that, 16, I think. And we needed an adult to take the format of the competition was such that we needed someone who was 18 plus to kind of moderate the group and things like that. I'm like, who can I think of? I'm like, hey, Sumukha. And then I was like, listen, do you want to head this group or whatever? Because we need so and so. I'll get the people together. You can suggest blah, blah, blah. So we started working towards that competition. And then it so happened, that was it. Actually, I think we were also doing GRP at that point, right? Because I remember when we had to fill in, or we watched a play. Because you remember when we had to fill in, submit the form, we met in Allianz for some reason. Yeah. But I remember that we applied for that competition, and it so happened that our group actually got through. But that year, the competition was cancelled because they didn't get enough funds to make it happen. Right. And that's why this was somewhere around December. I was in 10th because I had my boards coming up the next, in whatever period where I went all, no social media, nothing. I'm going to go away for months. And I remember this was before my exams when I got on for some reason. And I had this message from Sumukha who said, do you want to just start doing this on our own? And I was like, yeah, sure. And then I went off again for a couple of months because boards are happening. I finished my exams and all of that. And then I came back, and that's how it started, right? So it was that summer right after when I'd finished my 10th and all of that. And you know how the process of, first fold happened with respect to the auditions and things like that. But I did not know that I was the co-founder of POP throughout the duration of any of this, right? Because it was never... To me, it was Sumukha as a friend. We've spoken about this, and I'm just doing this because theater, and I know people who are enthusiastic, and I'm going to give it my everything because that's just what I'm doing in general, right? I know friends who are interested. I will ask them to audition. In no manner did I ever interact with Sumukha saying, I don't know, there was no understanding of I am co-founder, or, we're doing this as a... There was no understanding in the beginning more than anything. There was no term that was coined, but we were still doing things at our own capacity, just as we would have done founder, co-founder or not, right? But that's why. So throughout the duration of First Fold, I thought I was there to act, right? Like more than anything, I was like, yeah, cool. You're running a production house. I'm here to act. I got a couple of people to auditions, contacts, things like that. So First Fold happened. And I remember vividly when I was telling people, I was like, yes, this is a production house that my friend started. Like, I remember when I sent out messages also, it was my friend's production house, right? So I did not know, right? Like I throughout First Fold, I was blind to this factor. Then I don't know if you guys remember this, during bedtimes auditions in Indian Heritage Academy, when we all met for this thing, we were all standing in that circle before the auditions were about to begin. Sumukha was doing introductions, and he goes, hi, I'm Sumukha Prasad, one of the founders of Piece of Paper Productions, and the other co-founder is Jasmiti. And I'm like, obviously I couldn't react like that in front of everybody. I was like, that's me. And then I was like, oh, right. And then after the auditions, I went and I'm like, when did this happen? And then he's like, I thought you always knew. I'm like, isn't this, how would I know? Like, how was I supposed to know, right? Because in my head, I obviously imagine there's so much more that I could have done if I had this authority or if I was involved in this kind of a way. But, so that's where I found out. So after one project, I found out that I'm involved in another role or whatever of that sort. But problem is that at this point, I understood that I was founder or co-founder, and then I still had college and everything going on and all of that, right? And what we were working on was bedtime stories. I was an actor. I was an actor in bedtime stories. And in general, I'm just someone who gives a lot of feedback, whether you ask for it or not. That in that capacity, I'm always involved in whatever or not. But I still didn't know what I was supposed to do, right? He said, you're founder. I'm like, cool, got it. But now what, right? Like, I didn't know how to go about it. And I don't think I had the time or even sense, because it all just came to me to ask him what I'm supposed to do, or to kind of understand the role of how we're supposed to be working together and things like that. And throughout Bedtime Stories, I was still involved majorly as an actor because I had my own this thing going on. And I think at that point, Sumukha was not working anywhere. So he had his 100% kind of dedicated to, this is when you weren't doing anything. I mean, like you were doing things, but no, you had, what did you have?
He didn't work then, no?
I was doing masters.
Okay.
MS.
So that only,
MTech.
whatever.
MTech
But basically, a lot of your energy and time was given towards
during bedtime, no?
Yeah.
Yeah. Masters.
Yeah, during bedtime only. So yeah. And I still didn't know what I was supposed to do. I think it really changed when I finally, before Yari started. And that's when I was finished my 12th, right? So at that point, after my exams, after Yari, before the pandemic hit, right before, because at that point, I finally had time to process all the time in the world to kind of see how I can get myself involved entirely and not just half as things here and there trying to make things work, right? Because I understand that the pressure of being founder, of making these decisions are different, and it will require a lot of my attention, a lot of my time, and I can't be half-assing it, right? And I was prepared for that right after my boards, and that's when the pandemic hit during March, right? So right after Yari. But honestly, that's when I realized, I think Ides of July was when I got myself involved truly in POP as a founder, as a co-founder, post Ides of July. So it's entirely been 1 year for me, in a sense, since I've been involved in all these managerial decisions, and I have had a sense of my role and authority and things like that. But I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Okay. Ides of July for me was such a beautiful project because of the nature of the project, in a sense where, during a pandemic, during the lockdown, we were able to get so many people together, right? To kind of just come, collaborate, create art, both virtually and in reality and things like that. And the scale that the project took towards the end with the premiere on Book My Show, and even the monetary returns that we got, and those were things that we did not expect, but those are things that just happened through the project. And certain decisions with respect to that, I started realizing, I think I got a hold of my role through Ides of July. And since then, I can officially say that I know I am one of the founders of POP, and it didn't just come to me because, and I think I realized that and now when I look back at it, I'm like, it makes sense, right? Because this is something that we did speak about a lot. It's just that I don't know why. It was just a whole lot of I guess no communication that didn't translate in the beginning. But in terms of now the joy of performing and this thing, I think I come from a different space, because with POP in general, I have had all the time to act, right? As I just said, throughout that first year in POP, I was only acting. I still didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to get myself involved otherwise. But through the pandemic, through everything that happened after that, I got myself involved in the whole managerial aspect, in the whole production aspect. And it's given me more purpose in life. It's given me it's made me feel more like I belong, right? And I think I know that I want to be an actor, right? In a sense, more than anything. I have directed, I have written, I have done other things, but I really just want to act. And I'm very stubborn about that. Whenever Sumukha and I discuss about a new project, I know what I want to be in the beginning of it. Or I say that, listen, I'm going to act. And this idiot will also say the same thing. He'll be like, yeah, me too. But then he'll go and get himself involved in everything, because that's just, again, he described it. That's just the kind of person that he is when it comes to working like that. But I think I am slightly more stubborn more than anything, where I know that once I dedicate myself to anything, I live or I go through it 100%. So even in projects, whether I'm acting or not, I tend to set certain roles that I'm going to get myself involved in. For example, during the pandemic, we hired a social media interning team, right? That was something new that we did because both of us suck with we're not good at with social media at all, and we realized how it's important whether you like it or not. And there's a lot during the pandemic was happening through the social media. And when Vaishak spoke about how regardless of the fact that these guys are posting, you're still going to go and check the caption, you're going to edit when they're not seeing and shit like that. That is me. I'm like, we give them work, we'd make them do everything, but I'd be that annoying person hovering on top of them like, are you doing it right? Are you sure you're doing it? And it took me some time to realize, and I think Sumukha really kind of, he just said, hey, can you not? And I'm like, right, okay. But I think it's just important to realize that even with production, right, even with however you're involved in your respective companies, you need to draw a line. Okay, you need to decide whether you want to give this off to someone else or get more people on board. And if you made that decision, as Sumukha said, you need to go through it with it, because that's kind of how you grow as a company, right? And this is so Sumukha and I think we just spoke about this even yesterday, where for the first time during the theater camp, right, we had someone else on board. We have movement and dancers, we have dance as well as singing as part of the camp. And it was the first time that Sumukha and I just sat back and saw someone else teaching in light of POP to other kids. And I can't tell you how, as much as it is a pain to be, or it's hard to let this go, to let certain aspects go and give control of it to someone or whatever, it also gives you so much, I don't know, contentness. It makes you feel like you've done something right, or you're growing, I guess, more than anything. And that is a beautiful, beautiful feeling. Because as much as the company is growing, you realize you're also growing, because you're no longer just, holding on to every little thing about your little baby. And I don't know if this is what parenting feels like suddenly, but
completely agree on that last point. I completely agree on that, because like we've done BBB has done a couple of shows for Sophia's for your college in Mumbai. It's the most satisfying thing to do, right? Like whatever you say, college shows, whatever, just the feeling of getting the Zoom link 15 minutes before the show and just entering, doing your job, cutting, going on a WhatsApp call, discussing the show is the most amazing feeling. Like you don't have to worry about anything. You just have to read. They'll tag you. You have to restory it. They'll send you the Zoom link. You just have to join it. And just that's such a beautiful feeling altogether. We even when we did back in Jan 2020, we did a headlining show for ICB. Even that, like this, we just had to send a photo of us. They sent the poster, they did the marketing, they did everything else. We just had to show up in Indranagar, do a show, be like, oh, thank you, we're the BisiBeleBois, get a round of applause and leave. I totally agree with that. And when you do that, it feels like, oh, I guess I'm doing well in life.
yeah.
I guess I'm doing good comedy now.
Dude, but also just to add to that, I know I spoke a lot, but I just want to add, and I think you might also relate, considering you're a team of 3. Where is Avi? So shit.
Go ahead.
He told he won't be able to join, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So basically, you're a team of 3 and you're a team of 2, right? I feel like when you run a production house or a company or anything with someone else, it's a different thing. Like it's an entirely different thing from running it on your own, right? And again, it has its own set of pros and cons, but I think that's the beauty when it comes to the production bit. And again, that's also something that I learned with Sumukha for POP, because of that first period where there was barely any communication, where I had no idea what to do. A lot of producing is communication. It's communication with your team, it's communication with your co-founder or with the other people that you are running this particular whatever with, right? And I feel like that's about it. Just communicate. And I know this sounds, I don't know, I feel like my learning has come from the fact that communication has solved more or less everything, because if you can talk about it, you can deal with it. Talking about it may not be dealing with it, but if you can talk to the other person about it, you can deal with it and you can decide how you want to go about it. So yeah, I think the fact that you're running this with someone else is beautiful, and the fact that you can communicate about that is key for production.
Yeah, and get it. Like, yeah, this is like a constant question. Like with when we talk with some question, it's like he's like, oh, I just want to do podcast, but I have to do all this editing stuff. Then like with designers, again, like having the final thing, but along with that, presenting it on Behance and doing all that stuff. And we talked with Sitara, they're like, oh, we just want to teach, but like we also have to do all this stuff to make that teaching possible in the first place. So yeah, it's a very conscious thing that is surrounding us right now. And I want to tell two things. The first thing is that like when you told running it with someone else, it's in the case of BBB, it was like when we started off, like I would manage YouTube or whatever, and Vishnu would do poster design or whatever. If we criticized Vishnu on the posters, he'd be like, who's the designer? Like poster, like it's my thing. Like I'm right. Like your criticism is not valid. And like if he told something like, oh, this link did not come out right, or like this post something wrong, I'd take it personally and be like, shut the fuck up. Like I'm doing so much. Like don't add on to this. But like as time passed, like we understood that it's fine. As time passed, we understood that it's a creative thing. So like our inputs were taken into the posters that were made, and like his word would like come into this. Like it's not from a place where like two people working differently, it becomes two people working as one, where like we understand what we are supposed to do, and like it just happens like that. And yeah, that's the first thing I want to tell. Vishnu, do you agree or disagree?
I remember the poster thing. I don't know. Yeah, I remember, I guess. Yeah, I agree. I remember the whole fact about, I clearly remember these two messages from you and Avi. This was for parcel number 1, all right? We did the photo shoot, whatever bullshit. We have individual pictures, whatever, everything. And then I designed the poster. I'm like, fucking, I'm doing it on Photoshop. I myself in the center. Now it's a thing that I'm in the center. Avinash is on the right, Vaishak's on the left, where almost every poster that we've done, like that was the poster, and I sent it on the group, and like both of them were like, oh, I guess you're in the center now. And then both of them agreed, okay, I guess you did the poster. It's okay if you're in the center. And then that became a thing. Like it was just, and now it's become like a superstition for me that it has to be like that. Like even if Vaishak's on the right and Agnash's on the right, I don't feel like I've done the poster properly. So I usually switched up, and it's become like, and that's my own OCD superstition kind of thing. But just the fact that, yeah, initially I was like, hey, come on, I know what I'm doing kind of thing. And then I was like, okay, that's again me growing as a person, me growing as a designer as well, more than just the fact of growing with, and that's also there. Yeah.
No, it's just that like everything permeates through everything.
And then like Avinash and Vaishak also like learn, like they were also like equally good with like giving. Avinash fucker, he learned how Photoshop is probably going to does a great work, great design work. And Vaishak also has a basic sense of like design and aesthetic because of all his like whatever his exposure to design and like and all that. So and now it's like, yeah, I'll miss something. Attention to detail was something that when you're designing something, when you're the only person seeing it, either with editing, video editing, or anything, that if you're doing it alone, sometimes you don't see the flaws of it, right? Like when you're doing, I'll just speak about myself with regard to an video edit or something. When I'm editing a video, I know like the whole piece as a piece, it looks good, but I can't overanalyze it. It's very tough for me to overanalyze my own work or like go see the attention to detail in my own work. But whereas when I sent it to Avinash and Vaishak, they have that attention to detail in them that they'll see these small things. Overall, we know, like all three of us will know it's like going to be a good thing, but those attention to details, and that's when like I was like, okay, that's also very important, and like try to fix that and all that. So it's those small things that get fixed. There's a spelling mistake or some like, small things and all that. My spelling mistakes, I've done hundreds, like thousands of spelling mistakes I've done in like posters, videos. It's gone up on YouTube also, and like, so it's like it's learning process. So it's like fun. It's always fun to, as you said, pros and cons. That's going to be there, but that's how it is. Anything is going to have pros and cons. You're working alone, you're working with people, you're working with anybody, you're working with your dog, pros and cons are going to be there. So it's like,
and also like sometimes it's not good to think about this. It's just like good to just like keep it going.
But Jasmine, I genuinely thought you were co-founder. Like in April 17, Sumuka's house audition, see, I was already intimidated by you, right? Like now I'm not.
I have that.
Back then I was very scared. Very scared of Jasmine. That too, she confronted me in Alliance Francaise. I was like,
that I'm taking that. I've taken it personally. I still do, by the way. I hate you're the only person who hasn't remembered me, Vishnu.
See, like I was so scared. You confronted me. I was like, please let me go home.
No, but like that's the thing. As I said it just, I think that I never saw myself in that role, but I still got myself involved in that capacity in terms of whatever I could contribute as a resource person at that time. Right? Because at that time when I was in 10, that's the most that I could have done is reached out to all my contacts, helped you with, let's say scripts and I did these things. It's the exact same things. But it's just that I wasn't aware of the title in the role. And suddenly when that comes rushing at you, you're like, whoa. It's almost like there's just a title now and you need to do something about that.
Even though if it's the exact same thing that you have to
do. Exactly. It hits you differently and you're like, oh my God, now what? Now what? Crisis is happening. And then it takes you time to realize it's the same thing, woman. Like just, actually you have a little more power now. And it's just a fancier thing to introduce yourself as and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. No, like before that you were doing what was like what you felt was in your capacity and like, okay, I did 100% of my work now. But once you got that title, you still do whatever's in your capacity, but you think, is my capacity, is that the same capacity as co-founder, and like, am I matching it? Like, should I do more to live up to this role or whatever?
Yeah, maybe in a sense.
And the thing about Vishnu, where he told that like when we get those college show Zoom links, just enjoy. Yeah, that's definitely there. Just join and enjoy. Don't worry about anything. But also like, okay, why did they send the link like this? Why was the invite like this? These producers, macha, no attention to detail. Like, we've had those conversations as well. So yeah, it's all there. And like, I don't know how much we need to think about it, but yeah, this whole journey. And
that's the thing, right? Sometimes we tend to get caught up in these little things and we stray away from what we're truly here for. And I think I feel like, so the division that you guys spoke about where you have certain things that you do, right? Like, for example, if he does the graphics, you do the YouTube. I think that's not the way that Sumukh and I work. Like, we don't necessarily have like, you do this and I do this, although we do have our own sets of skills that we bring to the table, definitely stronger than the other person and all of that. There is no division because I feel like there is so much that we have in common. Right? There's so much that both of us bring to the table that's almost the same or similar, that we tend to get caught up in these little details that you're talking about. The thing is, and this is something that I've noticed a lot with the two of us, where both of us are trying to get to the same place. Like both of us are thinking about the exact same thing and we're trying to get to the same place. It's just that we have different approaches to do it. And that takes a while to understand that even though we're doing exactly the same thing, we have two different ways of going out about it. And we get lost in that little journey or those little details in every of the two paths. But these are things that I think that's what we've just learned to tackle, and we're still learning and we're still growing. And because the reason that we're still here together doing this together is because we have that same end goal at the end of the day. And it's just that we need to learn. I don't know. I absolutely enjoy the process of all our disagreements. And there are quite a few. And I think that's just how we are where we are.
Yeah, I think even I like the process, but it's just that I don't want to be doing both. Like, I really enjoy the process. When I was not a head, I really enjoyed being head. I didn't act in anything. I didn't do street play. I didn't do anything. Improv also. Did we do improv when I was head? Like 1 or 2 competitions, I think we went.
No, we were busy in like 80 and stuff.
Yeah, that's it. Like that. But I really enjoyed just being head, saying, okay, has written a script, conduct auditions, put people in. I want to see the run through on this day. Where is the run through? Why is the run through not there? I enjoyed that, but I don't want to do that managing and act. like, and be a part of the end creative process. I just want to be either managing. I really enjoyed that. And I enjoyed this. In case, like, if BBB was, say, producing a show, just producing, just we have lakhs of money. We're like young, younger than us, younger improv troupe of India, like that. We do that. We have everything set, just production. I'll enjoy that. I don't want to do this and that. Like, that's the main thing. If I'm doing improv or if I'm doing acting, just acting. Like Cradle of Blood, greatest acting experience I've ever had. I'm acting with my best friend Sumuka. Sumuka. I was not very close to Sumuka then, but Sumuka was Sumuka and like really chill. Like, and then we became close. So like, best acting experience I've had. Cradle of Blood. From I remember I was bunking class and I was walking out, and Sumuka was also like not in class. He was also coming. He was also near the block, and he told, "You're acting in Cradle of Blood. I'll see you tomorrow night at my house. Bring Arihant." I was like, okay, I guess. And Arihant and I went at like some 10:30 to his house, sat in the terrace with phone light. We read the script. As soon as we read the script, we were like, Smuka's like, yeah, you guys are doing it. Whoa, so cool. Great acting experience through and through. Like, I didn't do anything other than acting in that play. Like, zero work other than acting. So yeah, that was fun.
And like, what do you say? The reason why we're becoming more aware of these two things, which is managing and performing and all that, I think it's induced from the pandemic, right? So before, like during our live shows, like we would do ticketing, poster, all of that, but that was not so evident because we didn't feel like we were doing so much work or whatever, because at the end we were going to go perform and like that would happen. That payoff was like that. But now that because of Zoom, you're in your room at all times, so like each and everything you do is like, it's very evident, and like it takes a toll on you, is what I feel, right? So like so at least like then, like okay, the same thing like Vishnu, let's say like now how it goes, like posters on drive, I post it, then like ticketing happens, the mail goes out, we perform. That's there. Before, how would that be? He would say the poster was ready and like he'd move to get that printout. Like even though it's work, there's like an aspect to it, like going outside, getting that printing done and getting those posters. Then like we would get it through word of mouth, we would put it up and like sell. So that aspect would be there. And then tickets, Google form, like yeah, all that checking, book my show, everything's happening. But like we would do it, meet, go travel somewhere for practice, and then like after practice do something else. All those things.
Money aspect of it, like some have given cash, some have given Google Pay. Sit and count. Okay, Abhi, you have the cash. Vaishak has a Google Pay. I don't give Vishnu the money. Don't make Vishnu do math.
Yeah, so like all of these things are there, and then like at the end they showed a like like big boys telling, oh, you have to do this thing here, like six entry music, all that. It's there, but that same joy you don't get if you on Zoom, on the same, if you've seen a Zoom shows, like we still take so much effort and like put attention into putting it out the right way, like how we screen share in the beginning and have music playing, and then we still do, but it's just not as same. Like we tell the moderator, okay, you need play this music, then allow us. It's just not the same, right? And like yeah, we spoke about this in the last podcast as well. Like it's wrong to think of them as like one as a substitute of another. They're two different things, and like we need to be okay with it. So the more we think like, hey, like this online show is not giving same experience as live show, it's the more disappointment that we're bringing upon us. So we just need to agree that they're different things, and then just be okay with it. But that's why like now the everything is becoming more evident. So with that pandemic thing, how have you guys changed post pandemic? How have you whatever, how have you changed, what's happened, and like how has your working and evolved as such, and all of that stuff. But yeah, just compare pre-pandemic POP with post-pandemic POP. As people, as a company, like working with people, everything.
Honestly, for me, it was not that much of a struggle, because for me, if it was creating, right, irrespective of the medium, it doesn't really matter to me. I will get an idea which adapts to the medium. It's never been a problem for me. Because, see, as precious as the stage, I don't differentiate. I mean, I agree, theater is something that I hold dear to, but it's not like just because I hold theater dear, I won't, you know, disrespect the other mediums, right? So for me, I don't know. For me, it's never been much of a problem. I understand it takes different energies. I mean, the toll on you is very different, but that existed for me even before that. For example, when I used to act on stage, it's a different aura than when I act in front of the screen, right? And so I think for me, with respect to working with POP, it didn't change much. It became a bit more constricted, but I think I realized in the early days itself that, especially when the pandemic started, right? For me, when I started like creating ideas, when I started getting ideas, it was adapted to the medium already. It was not, okay, fine, I see it on stage. Now, how do I adapt it to screen? Or how do I adapt it to a virtual? Yeah. And again, terminologies, I don't care about them. Like if you call it like, if you want to call it a virtual show, a virtual thing, or for me, it's basically just a show. Screen, stage, Zoom, doesn't matter. It's just a show at the end of the day for me. The idea, the experience is what I take back. And that's what I tried, working out with POP. But again, there have been a couple of difficulties that came along the way. And that Jasmine will obviously explain when she gets to speak. But yeah, it's not been, I mean, with respect to POP, it has been kind of difficult getting the entire sort, because we were just starting out. Like, honestly, it was just when Ranga Shankara was basically our kick. It was our boost. We just leaped, and then, we were, but I don't like to believe that we were dragged down. It's almost like, I think we left the Earth's atmosphere and now we're in space. So it feels like, I mean, we are going really fast, but it feels like we're going really slow because there's no gravity. I just like looking at it that way. Parts of us are falling off, but then it's just for us to land on the moon. So yeah.
Okay. I think I will address POP. I think I've spoken about my involvement personally, but if I have to address POP, I think it would just be pre-pandemic POP was just theater, because all we did was theater, and we just ventured into short films with Yari, right? And Smukha and I had a couple of plans with respect to theater. We wanted to go all out the coming year with theater and do like everything and all of that, but the pandemic happened. And I agree with the fact that I think the ideas that we came up with were already adapted to the medium, because that's when Ides of July happened. That's kind of when we ventured into screen, because we realized that was a medium that was available and actually a very hot trending medium, right? Because that's where everybody's eyes was at that point. And these are things that we understood very subconsciously and unconsciously. It's not something that we spoke about. We realized, obviously, we can't go and these are very, we can't go and do anything on stage right now. But there are people who are glued to their screens. We are glued to our screens at this point. Make use of that. So we did short films. That's how we came up with all of that. And I think we also did a lot. So that's in terms of the content, right? From theater, it ventured into films more than anything. And then whatever. So screen or digital content came out. Apart from that, it was also social media that suddenly became all, woo, let's do something there, where, yeah, there was an entire team that just went all out. Right? We had, I think, trivia nights and like something and all we did do it in between. We just tried to keep the page engaged, to keep it active. We didn't want it to die down. But I think that took a toll on us, because we're like, what are we doing? Right? We're like, why are we doing this? What is it's fun. It sure is. But then the thing is, Sumukha and I weren't even doing it, right? We had a team that was doing it. And we were just like, yes, we'll do this, we'll do that. So both of us were just like, what are we doing? Like, and this took a while. Like this happened through the year. And we also shot for, I think when things became all right, we did the web series thing in between, right? We shot for all of that. So whenever shoot was happening, whenever we were doing anything close to the realm of film or theater and things like that, we were involved, we felt okay and all of that. But in terms of the content that POP was putting out when it was entirely enclosed to social media and things like that, we were like, what is happening? And it took a while for us to realize that I think I at one point started giving so much of my attention to social media, like to the content that we were putting out on social media, that I forgot thinking about everything else that we could be doing otherwise, like the other kind of content that we could be creating, because we'd put so much over there. So I think a lot of time, a lot of POP's time was on digital creation this year, irrespective, I mean, including again social media as well as irrespective of social media. Yeah, but I think I actually really like what Vaishak just said about how realizing the fact that they're not substitutes for each other. And I think that realization takes some time, because none of us were prepared for this pandemic, right? None of us were prepared. And our natural instinct is to try and adapt the existing ideas to what were, because we're already like, oh, I wanted to do this. My mind was set on this. Let's try and make this happen like that. But that's a natural instinct. But I think it was important that we realize it's not a substitution. Rather, you should see this as a way to expand more than anything, or maybe just because let's face it, this virtual realm, this online realm is not going anywhere, even if things become all right. Right? There's going to be a new movement in terms of art that's going to come up. And I cannot tell you personally how much I detest that. Because that's a disagreement that Smokha is talking about, which I absolutely admire that about him, about how he can kind of create content regardless of medium. But I am very emotional when it comes to the fact that theater is a live art and it's not happening in your home in front of your screen. If you care enough, get up, go sit in a theater and experience the entire experience, because that's what theater is. It's not you logging into Netflix. It's you being able to just sit in the auditorium, feel everything of that sort, which is why I have a problem with doing virtual plays. I have a problem with putting up mono act shows. I still get, right? Because that's something that you can still do. But I don't know. I just think it's really sacred for me in terms of live arts, live theater, even. Yeah. So I think that's why if that's a disagreement that we have very often in terms of virtual shows and all of that. And it's more than anything, for me, it's the terminologies. You can't call it a play because it's not a play. You can't call it, you call it a virtual, you can't record something, play it for an audience and then say it's a virtual play, because it's a live art. You need to do it live more than anything, right? So even if you're sitting in front of your screen, don't record and play. Right, but then again, now that comes with its own set of disadvantages of your internet connection. How will you just things? It's a whole different circle, which is why I'm not yet at that point where I can say we can do virtual plays, because I don't ever want to be part of that world where plays also come to you on your screen.
Yeah.
I think this whole purist kind of thing, even I have, like, it's sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not there for me. Like few things I'm like that, few things I'm not, because with comedy, like it's not, as Vaishak said, it's not a substitute, right? Like you can't do the same improv on Zoom. And we figured that out. I'm not saying, oh, we figured it out completely, but we understood that this substitute thing it's not going to happen. We have to do something that's only for Zoom. And this live thing is something, it's like swimming. We know it. Like we won't forget it, right? If we meet sometime, we'll still know how to do the whole live aspect of it. But for now, this is what it is. So let's do it. But with us, the thing is, like, this whole, I absolutely hate reels. Okay? Like from the bottom of my heart, I absolutely hate reels. And I don't think, like, comedy wise, I still believe that I'm very, like, comedy, very pure that wise. Like, I feel that stand up has to be done in a particular way. Like, you can't like wing stand up. You have to write and do it. And like, even with theater, I'm like that. I like that structure. Even as actors, when Sumukha told, oh, Vishnu didn't Vishnu kept asking when to practice for midnight here, but he was like that. I was genuinely stressed because I always, the theater that I've done from fourth has always been that, right? Like practice every day, 2-3 runs. And at the end of it, it's like, it's part of your body that you just go do it. And with
muscle memory.
I am like that. I'm an actor like that, where till play, I would like to do as many practices as possible and then go. And in stage, I don't remember anything that I'd done before. It's a blank slate, go do it. Like, I don't know what happens now on stage. That's something that I don't want to discover how I act on stage, but I like how I like to be self-aware of myself, of how I'm acting in practice sessions. But on stage, I don't want to know what I'm doing, right? I don't want to discover it. Like, I don't want to be self-aware when I'm on stage, right? So, and even with that, even with BBB, we've somewhat, I've seen this, I don't know, I've not told it to Abhi and Vaishak as well, but I've always felt that we're always slightly late to a trend. Like with even the YouTube whole live stream thing, it was a huge thing like 4 or 5 months back. We're slightly late to it. And like, I don't want to join Clubhouse. I don't want Clubhouse, right? It's like, oh, I don't want to do it. Like, it's not, they say, oh, it's almost like a podcast, because the same thing, even if there's no video, it can work. It's a podcast, but I don't want to join it. Probably when the fad is dying, we'll probably join it, right? And even with real comedy, I don't want to do real comedy. Like, if three of us, we've done so much comedy, don't you think we can come up with a real, real, whatever funny, viral kind of reel that we can do, like put whatever, whatever that music is, and like do some reel. But it's just that it's so that, as you said, some things are so dear to you that you don't want to give it up. It's like, come on, that's one thing. Please don't do that, right? So that's why, like, even it's a very difficult thing to convince yourself that it's okay. But if any brand is watching, I will do reels in partnership, right? So it's yes, I completely.
Yeah, but I get, that's the thing. Having said that, it's true. Like, we shouldn't be looking at it as substitutes, dude, because this is not going anywhere. We need to learn how to adapt and still not let go of what we truly believe in. Right? That's the important thing. Don't just fully adapt.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, when this all started out, we were like, we hate Zoom shows. And like, I remember telling once that, like, even though once like there's no COVID, Zoom shows will continue to be a thing. And Vishnu was like, shut up, like, no chance. Like, you're like, that's not possible. But I guess that's just how we need to deal with it. And there are different things, and them being different, not only is like the entire art form two different things, the method of gratification is also different. You're not going to get a standing ovation with a Zoom show, and you have to be okay with it and like redefine your ways with which you get gratified or like validated. Those things need to change as well. And like, I was thinking about the same thing like yesterday or something, where in like with education as well, online education is not a substitute for offline education. And like, why are they doing online classes and then expecting offline exams? Like, it doesn't make sense. You can't say they're substitute. So like, examination methods also need to change as well to like suit this whole online space. So the same thing I can extrapolate it to like our art form, where the entire art form itself is different. So like, why are we so hell-bent on, audience reactions? They're also very different now. So like, we had this conversation long ago where like Vishnu was like on a live show is like just haha in the chat on Zoom. Like, we need to be okay with they're the same reactions now. We can't be like, are they really laughing in front of their laptops?
Yeah.
It's not right. It's not fair on us anymore to like force ourselves to like hold ourselves to that image when we're doing something else, I feel, but yeah, that's the whole entire thing.
It's the whole live, it's a 1 hour conversation on its own, though. Like,
yeah
yeah
true.
that sitting and arguing about our life experience, because just sitting with someone like in a stand-up show, you've paid $500, you don't make a joke, but like 500 people are laughing with you. You don't want to feel left out. You're gonna laugh. I've never not like I'm like at the end of the show, I'll be like, shit, that was not a good show. But when I'm sitting and watching the show, when I'm whatever 500, 700 rupees, and I'm watching it, and even if it's a shit joke, I will laugh. I will clap and laugh. Right? At the end of it, I'll be like, "Shey, that and all I laughed." Right?
Yeah.
So just that. And for the comedian, he doesn't care. He got his instant gratification then and there. He got his money. Everything's done. So that's whole.
Yeah. Like
But
if you
Sumukha,
watch,
yeah.
if you watch your Mad Ads performance in like when college, when you were
Oh,
watching a
God.
team do Mad Ads, you're like, whoa, whistle, oh, cool, yeah, love. The same recording you watch later. What is this cheap yappa yuck, you know?
But
Yeah.
Sumukha, are you a purist or are you like chill with it? We've three of us told we are purists. Are you?
I'm not. I'm not a purist. I couldn't care less. I don't care what you term it as. For me, see, I think I come from a pure artist background. Like I'm coming from more as an artist and not as a thespian or a screen actor or anything like that, right? The reason why I'm saying that is because, see, let's say we do a play, right, and we're recording as we're doing it, right, and all the other people are muted or anything like that, or anything, any way you want to do it, right? There are the beauty of the virtuality of today. It has its own advantages. For example, I really wanted to watch Hamilton. Right, I so badly wanted to watch. I remember I even asked my dad that I don't care what happens. I want you to book a ticket to me for me to go to London, watch the show. For only that, I was ready to actually spend like lakhs of rupees. Right. But today, like when they performed in Broadway, they gave us an opportunity to kind of experience Hamilton. See, for me, the reason also why it's as an artist is because when I perform, let's say virtual play also, I that one thing which always dreads me or kind of like becomes a factor while performing, which is taken away. So I'm 100% only my effort, which is the audience reaction, which is the most toxic thing an actor or an artist looks for. The audience's reaction. It's beautiful on its own, but it's very toxic because, and I've mentioned this to you guys a lot of times. Whenever you're acting, right, you get a laugh. You get so carried away by that one laugh. It takes you to cloud 9, which burns you in the sky. Right? It's so bad. Yes, it's so good. But when it's a virtual show, and this is something I observed, like even like while I remember I started watching a recording of a Broadway shows, for example, Oklahoma and all that. And they're screening it, and all you get to do, like, imagine you as the actors, right? Imagine you being Hugh Jackman or something like that. You're acting. You have no audience reaction. Like, audience is just muted and their videos are turned off. All you care about is your co-actor. All you care about is your story, your character story and all that. You're giving it your all. You're not being factored by anything else. You're only being factored by your co-actor and maybe the internet issues, right? But if you have a good stable internet, then you're just being factored in by the co-actor. At the end, I saw the recording and I wasn't looking at the play because I had already watched the play. I was looking at the people's reaction, right? And it gave you such a sense of, it gives you a joy that, okay, fine. I mean, this obviously, I don't know if it works with comedy because comedy is something that you need constant validation with, is what I think. I'm not sure because I've not tapped into it. If I ever do a comic play, I'll let you know. But with respect to any other like genre, I would love to kind of not have an audience just so that I can see how much of an effort or how effective I am on my own. How effective I am with only my crewmates. How effective I mean, what kind of energy can I bring into the story and not being influenced by anyone else, any external person who doesn't know? Because I remember when I think the first time I performed in Nautanki, right? My eyes went to the first person, the first row. When I was doing the play, he looked so disappointed. Like he was like, why am I here? Did I join the wrong college? Right? That one thing that everyone wanted to laugh at, and that one person doesn't laugh at, you get stuck on that. And then that person becomes a factor into your story who wasn't supposed to be. It's beautiful. But as an actor, as someone who I want to explore, what my range is, I don't want that person to influence me. I want the person holding a belt about to like hit my face with it to influence me more than that person. Right. Again, it has its own pros and cons, but it doesn't matter to me. Like if you put me on stage, I will give it my all. If you put me in front of a screen, I will give it my all. It's going to be taxing either way. Might as well enjoy the process. I'm not going to waste my energy on kind of like trying to hold that. It is sacred for me. I'm not saying it's not, but I won't take away from what a certain medium can give me. I will take everything that I can get.
Interesting.
Pretty good. Yeah. So something that, yeah, it's tough to it's tough to completely agree with you. I'll be honest there, but
yeah,
something that you
So like,
think about.
My head's like, how can you completely dissociate the audience from this? And like,
yeah,
that's how I go.
I mean, I get that. I get the dissociation thing, because I feel like what he was talking about with respect to the advantage of being virtual is the fact that the audience is not factoring. I don't see it like that, right? No, but even for theater, even if when you're on stage, like physically when you're on stage and there's an audience, you as an actor are trained not to care about the audience, because dude, it's a discipline. I think that's all it is, right? It's not, acting is not improv entirely. And I think that's
exactly that's what theater. I understand. Like even if
no, I get that. I think
college plays, who's watching you? Who's watching you in college plays? Like
true.
place for your college team, who's watching you? No one's watching. So 5 people are watching.
True.
Those 5 people are also not giving 2 fucks. So it's almost like that.
It's the same thing. Like in a sense,
theater wise, I still agree, but yeah, as a performer, I don't agree.
maybe.
No, and like this 2 things which what I'm thinking of like is during our conversation with the design boys was that like Tanmay told something like, as a designer, you are something that like the detachment from the creative aspect, and like you are doing something for your user is what they told. In a sense, like we, as well as like, even though we are artists, I feel like some sort of us must care about our consumers. Like we must be aware that like we are them, and like to a certain degree or whatever, we must cater to that as well. And like we must design our art form in a way that it's also solving or like at least achieving a purpose at least. So I don't know, it's so much to think about, but yeah, the designer's approach to art is what I would call it.
But I think this is again a very valid thing, the whole consumer thing. And I think that's where we purists come from, or whatever, where what we're doing at the end of the day, we're all catering to the needs of someone else only. Like why are we staging a show? It's for the mass, it's for an audience, it's for all of that, right? As much as you will say, no, I love it and all of that. And what we're doing here is, by doing these things virtually, we feel like we're creating it's a loop. The content that you're creating is the content that they're consuming. And the more that you create virtual content, the more you feel like they will consume virtual content. Do you get what I mean? And hence, the consumption of non-virtual content, even when it is an option, might not be high.
Yeah.
Even though that might give you more satisfaction, it may not give your audience as much satisfaction, or it's not as convenient for them and things like that. Which is why it's a loop, this consumption and production thing. But yeah.
this purist argument has always been there, like with directors telling, oh, I only want to shoot on film and like digital. No, it's going to be there. It's always there. And like so far, like yeah, it's been a great talk so far. Like we've spoken about so
Oh
Yeah.
much.
God, what's the time?
For
It's
4:10, I think we can.
We've been live for 2 hours and 4 minutes. We will
Yes.
end with this final closing question. And like
Before
so far,
that chat, two
oh
people have
yeah.
told I love you, Vishnu. I love them back. Avish Kampiri, Sina Teli, same. Thank you.
And yeah, we'll end with this great. I hope both of you have had so much fun so far. And like, uh, I don't know, like it's interesting to delve into our brains like this every now and then. And like
Weekly.
yeah, right. So like we're going so much at full speed. So like occasionally stop and like look around and like what are we doing? And like during this, like so many of like our biases come out, like what I thought, like oh shit, or I was thinking like that or whatever. And okay, so this is the final question and we will close on it. What was the what name or like what were those pieces of art which has influenced you so much into like doing whatever you do? Like could you name something which you have seen or some and like or something in recent times which has touched you so much?
Oh, this is like a rapid fire question, sir.
No. Take your
Just
time.
objective answers.
No, take your time and tell how has it shaped you, and like we will end with that question. A sweet, wholesome question, and we will.
Even
How
I
much
have a
pressure
sweet
you're putting
wholesome
on it.
question. Mine is end sweet wholesome question.
Oh, okay, fine. Hmm.
I'm thinking as well. I mean,
I don't
Don't take
have.
so much time.
Yeah,
also.
I don't have a certain thing that influenced me.
Okay, fine. That answer is not allowed. You have
No,
to
no, no.
tell something.
In the sense that for me, see, when I watch shows and all, I don't get ideas. I don't get a certain thing. It's just so for. I think it's basically the way for me how I get inspired is one image. That's all it takes. Like you can show me an entire 3 hour film, which is like a masterpiece. But for me, at the end of the day, it's just one image which will give me inspiration. When I mean image, I don't mean anything else. It's you can tell me an idea. For example, a dog playing poker, right? You have a painting of that, but you also get an idea of something else, right? For me, it's like that. Like example, I don't know. It's I have an image of a guy eating a steak out and watching himself, right? Stakeout, like the cars, FBI, binoculars, and all that crap. And he's watching someone, but it actually looks like exactly himself. And around that, I develop an entire story with it. It's basically how, and I used to do this a lot before pandemic. Go sit in a cafe and don't do anything. Just order one coffee because then they don't kick you out or anything, and just observe people. Like observe stills and every still I believe has a story behind it, right? And that's all I used to do, and that's the thing that gave me inspiration always to create anything for POP for myself.
This cafe thing, I think it's a very like a common thing, right? Like our observed. I was recently watching this Aaron Sorkin interview where he says how he writes, like his dialogue is something that's like too good, right? Like him writing dialogue, him digressing with topics and all that, that social network, first 10 minutes and all, everyone knows. So how he was telling how he writes dialogue is he'll go to a cafe or a diner and he like sit and like he'll like try to eavesdrop on some conversation and then they're like about, oh, how do you think this like don't you think the whipped cream industry has taken up something whatever. So he's like, how do you think they got there, that conversation, how do you think they got to that conversation? So I come back and write how they would have got to that conversation, and that's my dialogue, right? And it's the same with even like Tarantino, where he says, "Oh, used to watch a scene, come back, write, and like whatever is I don't remember, that was on my own stuff." And that's that's a very common thing. And like these two people, I really admire these two people. So yeah, and you said cafe, so I was like, I'll tell you all this story. as I watched this interview last week. Yes, Smriti.
Yeah, I think I more or less agree with what Mukha just said. It's not, I don't have people or specific pieces of art, but I think it's moments that inspire you, because I feel I'm truly just that person. It's like you need extrinsic inspiration to trigger intrinsic motivation, right? Because at the end of the day, that's everything is inside you. I just psychology you guys, but yeah, there's a trigger outside, the ideas inside, you just need it to click, and then it happens. So yeah, and that could be in the form of a play, it could be a conversation, it could be when you're sitting in the cafe and doing nothing, or it could just be when you're taking bath usually and shit like that.
Yeah.
So it happens. But yeah.
Good.
I think you okay. I'm getting where you guys are coming from, and like, yeah, moments do define you. And okay, now that like I expected answers like, yeah, Schindler's List or something like that. But now that like
I have
you
an
told,
objective answer. Go ahead. I have an objective answer, so you can give an objective.
no. Now that they've given this, like I also think like, yeah, for me like it's not. What do you say? Uh, it's what I feel, which is what drives me to do something. So it can be like the most artsy film whatsoever. Uh, like it can be a complete art film, and then I get emotional over it, and I'm like, oh, like I want to deliver what I felt to people as well. That's what I want to do. Or it can be like Avengers Endgame, where Tony Stark dies and everyone
Yeah.
is like so cold and like everyone's emotional. I want to do that too. So it doesn't matter where it comes from. Or yeah, like, and like I tend to like, what do you say? Hold on to the little things a lot. So like it can be something like uh, I was thinking of this one experience where I was in Pune with my grandfather, and like me and my cousin sister were in Pune, and we wanted to hang out, and like we were so much like we don't want adult supervision. So like like his please don't join us. We don't want you to come with us, and we were all about that. And like he was like, no, I'll come with you guys. I'll come with you. And like we were like, no, because we want to do shady shit. So like, no, don't come with us. And like we somehow convinced him to not come with us. And like we went to MG Road in Pune. And like later, he came and like he joined us. And like he then drove us to a mall, and then he bought me a couple of t-shirts and told me this is why I wanted to join you. And I was like, oh, like, so like these moments from real life as well, where all of these things like feelings and like emotions and to be human is all that inspires me. That's all.
I'm not objective.
Peer pressure, this is, dude.
To the three of you, compared to the three of you, I have a very objective answer. I don't disagree with any of the points said. Like, obviously, it's something, inspirations usually, they say, oh, it's something that has to come, has to be natural and stuff like that. But I've always been a very structured, even though I did a creative, even my studies in a creative field, which is design, I've liked structure in design. And even with comedy, I like structure. Even with theater, I like structure. And like, I just like the structure in these things. So even and being objective, even though if it's a subjective thing, I like it being objective, at least for myself. So at least to gratify myself, I like to be objective. So that said, like even this podcast, the whole podcast idea, I pitched my shot like long back, and that it's all came to me. I'm a huge Jerry Seinfeld fan, and I've been watching comedians in Cast Getting Coffee from like a very long time. And during the pandemic, I watched the entire full whatever 8 seasons that are there. Like 2-3 times I've watched it now by now, or more than that, like specific episodes. And he's done. It's such a chill show. Like it's very well produced. Everything that all secondary, but just the fact that he's doing it just because he loves it so much. He loves comedy and he loves talking comedy with comedians is why he does it. And just that he doesn't have an agenda. There are so many fuck ups in the show, but it's there in the show and all that. And that was like one inspiration for this. But other than that, also, yeah, Seinfeld. Always admire seeing him do stand up. And with comedy, for acting, I don't know. I don't have inspirations for comedy. I cheat for acting. But for comedy, I've always enjoyed seeing people, and like I've always felt, hey, that's something that I would like to do when I would like to do, like if I get a chance to do on stage. There's this one Steve Carell sketch with Stephen Colbert where he does each time they're both waiters, and each time the way Stephen Colbert reads out the menu, Steve Carell gags. Like he gets nauseous each time he hears a food name. And like if it's not a food, if it's a drink, he's okay. And if it's like a food, he gags. Right? And such small stupid characters that I really enjoy watching, and I feel like, oh, I want to do stuff like this. And I try like when I watch Naveen Tachor doing his kid bits, I really like playing kids, even in like improv scenes. I really like that character when I'm playing. So stuff like that, small things I like to pick up from different people. So very objective that way.
Yeah. My objective answer is the movie which made me watch more movies and enjoy was Fight Club. That's my first movie because that's the one which I learned. That's the movie with which I learned to download movies, and like the fact that like end plot twist and like that experience. And the music album is Marshall Mathers LP by Eminem, and that like taught me to think creatively and all that stuff. That's my objective answers. But yeah.
Movie lots. I call this the movie virginity, right? When you watch a movie.
Yeah, correct.
Just that feeling of watching that first movie, and when you say that movie and someone has not watched it, you will genuinely feel jealous, right? Like, wow, you're gonna get that feeling of watching that movie for the first fucking time. Like few movies like Seven and Pulp Fiction, like Seven when he comes out saying detective. Shit. Like you can never get that feeling again, right? Because you know it. But when you saying go watch this movie and they're like they haven't watched it, you're like, oh shit, that bastard, he's gonna have the time of his life watching that movie.
Correct. Awesome. What's your wholesome question? Let's end the podcast.
Come on, Sumukha, Jayasmati. Tough question. Who are your two favorite actors from POP? Give your answer. Give your answer quickly.
Sumukha and myself.
Yeah.
What are you going to say? You were not going to say that. What are you going to say?
Okay. Guys, thank you.
Very disappointing.
I wanted a wholesome end. You gave me a disappointing end. But
very wholesome for us. Thank you so much.
But yeah,
thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all for doing this, and it's been great. And like people who have stayed till the end, you are like
beautiful guys. You guys are.
You are Ashutosh Gaurikar fans. I love you, and
yes.
I hope you watch many more Lagans in your lifetime. And with that being said, thank you so much. And people who are watching Piece of Paper Productions, Jayasmati, Sumukha Prasad, all of their social handles are linked down below. Watch their short movies, follow them on Instagram, and listen to Sumukha read Ramayana every alternate day.
Thank you.
With that being said, we will tell bye and end today's podcast.
You have to wave. You have to keep waving.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.